Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at an article from Khan Academy, Line as an Art Element. When we first open the article, we see an image. And if we look underneath the image, we can get some information about the image. We'll see that the artist is Albert Dürer. We can see the title of the image, The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. We can see that the image was done in 1498. And that it is a woodcut, which means that the image is a print. Line is the most basic visual element. Lines can be used to define shapes and figures, but also to indicate motion, emotion, and other elements. When I first open an article and I read the first paragraph, it's often telling me what I'm going to be learning through the rest of the article. So let's look at that. Contour lines and hatching. In a woodblock print of The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse by Albert Dürer, contour lines, lines that define shapes, are used to mark the outside of all of the elements of the image. So if I didn't know what contour lines were before, I do now. They are lines that define shapes, are used to mark the outside of all the elements of an image. The outline of the hat on one of the horsemen, for example, is clearly made by a few black contour lines. This simple device is so effective that it is hard to remember that there is no hat here, only a few black marks on a white page. So look at that detail and see if you can see the shape of the hat is created just by the outline of the hat. But what we see is a cone-like shape sitting on a head. Note, though, that the lines are also used to show shading, the shadows caused when light hits one side of an object, leaving the other in shadow. Again, if I didn't know what shading was in art terms, I do now. It's the shadows caused when light hits one side of an object, leaving the other in shadow. On the hat, for example, the closely spaced lines called hatching show that the left side of this hat is in shadow. So again, here's another art term, hatching. If I didn't know what it was before, I do now. I can look back at the image. I can see the small lines on the one side, closely spaced together. Those marks are called hatching. This also helps the hat to look more three-dimensional, giving it a sense of form. Contour lines outline all the figures and forms in the image, creating the illusion of shading and form. In addition, there are horizontal lines in the background. These create shading, but they also help create the sense that the writers are moving rapidly from left to right. Motion lines may be familiar to you from comic strips, but they appear in all sorts of works. Let's look back at the Dürer image, and we can see that the lines in the background help create the sense that those horses are moving forward. And we can see that the shading and the lines to create form are all throughout the image, with the exception of a few black areas. The image is created completely by the use of line. We look at the hair, the horse's mane, all of the loosely curving lines around the cloud and around the figures, and we can see that those are the organic lines. And we look at the lines in the background, the straight horizontal lines. Those are the inorganic or geometric lines. And hopefully you can see how Albert Dürer used this basic art element to create a very dynamic image. And that's what I want you to do today. So your assignment today is to use line in your drawing. You need to use line to define form. You need to use some hatching. You need to use line to create shadow, and you need to use line to create motion. So again, in your drawing, I need you to use line to create form, use line with hatching, use line to show shadow and to show motion. So do you have any questions?